Right. Okay, as I was saying, I do screen recording for my classes, except when I forget to do it. Okay, if that is important to you, you might want to remind me to do it at the beginning of a class. Even 15 minutes into the class, you're not quite sure whether I started the recorder, just raise your hand and ask, Tag, did you start the recorder? Because sometimes I can go the entire class forgetting to press the Enter key after I type in the command. I have done that before. So just help me, just help me out a little bit here. Just remind me, and check, occasionally. I also have to check to make sure that the recorder is hooked up to the right input channel, because otherwise you'll just be watching a silent movie at the end of the class. That happens sometimes too.
Since other movies aren't bad.
No, except when it's a course screen recording. All right. So what we'll do is I'm going to sign out of Moodle so I can show you the entire process of how to get into Moodle. You can see the URL is not d2l.lostreels.edu. It is Moodle, moodle.lostreels.edu. All my classes are offered through Moodle. I do not use D2L. Are there any questions about the URL of the website at this point? Okay. To sign in, your username is your typical W followed by 7-digit student ID. It has to be a lowercase w. I haven't tried uppercase, but I think lowercase works. And then the password is your universal password for the Lost Reels district. So it's the same password that you use to get into iMail, eSurfaces, D2L, and all the other surfaces of Lost Reels. Are there any questions about how to sign in to Moodle? No questions? Okay. So I will go ahead and sign in first, but I sign in using my actual name and not my student ID. Okay, let me change this part here so that it looks exactly the same as what you will see. When you first sign in the first time, this is what you should be seeing. You will see exactly the same screen, except when you scroll down a little bit, you will see My Courses. It will list all the courses that you are taking that are offered through moodle.lostreels.edu. There will be very few classes because I think altogether we have about 8 professors of the entire campus offering their classes through Moodle. The rest will be using D2L. Are there any questions at this point about how to sign in to Moodle? No questions? Now Moodle contains all the resources for this class. There's no textbook to buy for cisp300 because I write all the text material for this class. It is all free. There's nothing to pay for this class, in terms of quote-unquote textbook. If you find it kind of troubling that you don't have a physical book of some kind, you can try to find a textbook. I just have not looked elsewhere for a textbook. A lot of the stuff in this class are fairly quote-unquote unique to this class. The way the class is taught and also the way we do the exercise is kind of unique. So you might have some problems finding a textbook that will match up the same material as what I will be talking in the class. So we'll go ahead and go into the class, go to My Courses and click cisp300. And here's the class. Now, if you find that the navigation thing is just taking up space and it's not being very useful, so is the settings and the other stuff, what you can do is to dock it. So to dock it, you just click this button here, move this to the dock, and you just move everything to the dock, and now you have a much bigger area, to view the content of this course. Okay. Once it's moved to the dock, you can just hover over the dock, and then you will have access back to that panel. Are there any questions about this step? How to kind of configure your screen so you can maximize the screen space for content of the class? Any questions? No questions? For those of you who have cell phones and you want to view the content using the cell phone and you have relatively large fingertips and it's hard to press those tiny little links, there's actually a mobile theme that you can use. When you first sign in and at any time you want, you can click mobile theme for mobile devices. And what that does is it will choose a different theme and therefore making Moodle much more friendly for mobile devices. Okay? Any questions about that step? I have used it a little bit, it's okay, but you have to click a lot more because it divides up the content into more levels of clicking. Right. So what I'll do is I will go over the syllabus first, and then we'll see how much time is left, and then we can talk about the actual content of this class. If you were in CISP 310 before this class, this is pretty much the same stuff. So if you want to, take a little break and doze off, that's good with me. As long as you're not disturbing your neighbors, it doesn't bother me at all. Snoring does. But don't laugh. I have had students who snored pretty loudly in class, and I had to walk over and go like, "Come on, wake up." I had my own, I slept a lot in my classes back in college. So. Not because I partied the night before, but because there's too much homework. I go to bed at 2 a.m. and then I have 8 a.m. classes every single day. So it was a little hard. All right, so information about the course itself. The course title is Algorithm Design / Problem Solving. But what we'll be doing is understanding the elements of programming in this class. In other words, if this were a construction / contractor type of class, in this class we'll just be understanding the tools and also the material that we have to use to build a house. We're not going to get into how to design a house that much in this class, but we will talk about what is a 2x4, what is a 4x4, and when to use those particular material and tools at the right time. The description, you have access to this already from your catalog. This course introduces methods for solving typical computer problems through algorithm design. Algorithm is a fancy word for method. Okay? A way of doing things, a method of doing things. It's just a fancy word that people use in computer science that means exactly the same thing. Topics include assessing and analyzing computer problems in a top-down divide and conquer approach that leads to a programming solution. It also covers programming plans and detailed design documents from which source code versions of programs are created. That's just the description. And then the student learning outcomes or student learning objectives, they tell you what you can expect to be able to do after the completion of this course to a certain degree. You can define operators, differentiate control structures, and that definitely you will be able to do. Deduce post-condition from preconditions. You will be able to do it right after the final exam, but not 2 days after that. You would have forgotten that stuff completely 2 days after the final exam because most people hate that stuff. But it is important. Construct a trace table to emulate the execution of a program that utilizes variables, control structures, data organization, subroutines, and parameters. This is the only class that I know of in which you will have to trace your program by hand. But that's the way I do it because I want everyone to understand if I see a statement like this in whatever language, that is what's happening in the background when that statement executes. So we'll be doing a lot of that in this class. Contrast the lifespan limits and behavior of local variables, by value parameters, and by reference parameters. We'll get to that part. It's really kind of technical. The rest of this is kind of technical, except for this one, compare inline copy and paste coding with structured subroutine in terms of maintainability, defect containment, testability, and other metrics. In general, if you have to use copy and paste when you're programming, it's not good. Okay? We'll talk about all of these topics later. So we'll just kind of move on to information about myself. This is my name. First name is Tak, last name is Aoyang. It's really hard to pronounce, so if you want to just call me Tak, that's okay. Okay. I think I prefer people calling me Tak than hey, or man, or professor, even. Okay. I have had years of students who walk into my office during my office hour, where my name is actually on the door, and just call me professor. I think in some culture it is actually a form of respect, calling me professor, but I would much rather people call me Tak by name. Okay? Not that I would take any points off if someone walks in and just say, man, I don't know how to do this homework. My office is number 7 in Liberal Arts 133, which is one building on that side. Okay? Does everybody know where 133 is? Kind of? Okay. The office hours are kind of all over the place because on Mondays and Wednesdays, it depends on whether it is the first 8 weeks of a semester or second 8 weeks of a semester. For the first 8 weeks of a semester, my office hour is from 9 to 10 o'clock, but for the second 8 week on Mondays and Wednesdays only, it is from 10:30 to 11:30. On Tuesdays, my office hour is right after this class, so you guys are lucky because if you just kind of walk with me back to the office, that's the beginning of my office hour. On Thursdays, it is from 5 to 6 o'clock p.m. This is 24-hour format. And I don't have any in-office office hour on Friday, but you can still send me email if you have any questions. Do we have any questions at this point about my office hours? It's not very uniform, so you kind of have to remember the distribution of the hours. My phone number is 484-8250, but the best way to get a hold of me is to use my email address. My cell phone can check both email accounts, so it doesn't really matter which one you send email to. I can get it almost right away. Not that it's always convenient for me to reply right away, but I can get it right away. Online classroom is what we are using right now. It is moodle.losrios.edu. The video, the screen recording, is not going to be on Moodle. It's going to be in YouTube. So you want to enter the date of a particular day and then cisp300 to access the screen recording for that particular day. Any questions about that part? Yep.
You have it under your YouTube account, right? So it'd be, what's your username?
Some profs.
Some folks.
Yep. Okay, let me just go there so that you guys can see it. So you go to YouTube and you can look up the account, which is Some Profs. So it has I have my own channel, so you can go to Some Profs, and then you can even subscribe to it. So every day when I post new screen recordings, you'll automatically get an email saying, oh, there's a new post on YouTube right now. And so far I have 72 subscribers, almost 27,000 views, which is not that much. It really isn't all that much, considering I have, where does it tell you how many videos I have? I guess videos. Where is it? Well, from these screens, you can kind of guess how many videos there are. In other words, you can actually watch video recordings from prior semesters. And I think I have at least a whole year of 2 semesters of recording already online. In other words, you can study ahead of the class by reviewing my lectures in the past, but for a future topic relative to you. kind of convoluted. But I don't use the same homework assignments nor the same questions for exams. So, just in case someone says, oh, so that's great because, I just watched your review of the questions exams for the last semester. So I should be able to ace the exam this year. Maybe, maybe not. I always have new questions. All right. So are there any questions about YouTube, how to get to the screen recordings of this class? No questions? Right. So getting back here, we'll go ahead and take a look at the syllabus. We were looking at this already. I had another screen. Yep, it's already here. This is the section information. This is the time is from 10:30 to 11:50. I'll try to be on time, especially the end time. Excuses. The only excuses that I have to accept in case of an absence will be one of these three: sickness of the student himself or herself, jury duty, or military duty. Those are the only three types of excuses that I have to accept. For everything else is at my discretion. Okay. As I was telling students from the previous class, I do have understanding of certain things, unexpected things that happen. My car wouldn't start this morning. It happens. My cat died. It happened. Mine just died about 2 weeks ago. It was really sad. If I went to class on that day, I would be disturbing the rest of the class. So I understand, certain things, it's just, I can accept certain excuses. My child is sick, okay? I have 2 kids on my own, and, if they're sick, I need to find somebody to take care of them. If I cannot, I have to stay home. So I can understand all that stuff too. Attendance, okay? A student may be dropped from any class when the student's absences exceed 6% of the total hours of class time. Okay? So what does that mean?
2 sessions, right?
It's actually 2 sessions, yeah. Yep, 2 classes. Missing 2 classes is enough, it's more than 6% already. How does that work out? Well, let's see, 100% is the entire semester. How many weeks do we have in a semester? 16 weeks. So 100% divided by 16 is 6 point something. Okay, so that means it's already more than 6%. So that means anyone who misses 2 classes unexcused can be dropped. Now, if it is excused, it's excused and it doesn't count to the 2 sessions. If a student is absent because of illness verified by the health center or personal physician, the absence also must be excused, and the student will be allowed to make up the work, but only up to a certain point. Okay, only up to a certain point. You guys can close the door if you want to. It seems kind of noisy outside. Thank you. Okay. Thanks. All right, so we have 1 seat freed up here, and then 2 more here. So if you guys want to bring, you guys want to stack up more seats in the back, or? Well,
No.
I'll leave it up to you. You can just put a seat next to the end of a table, so that way you can have a place to sit down. In this class, I take attendance by roll sheet. So the roll sheet is right here. Oh, okay. So don't forget to put your name, sign your name next to your name. All right. Next. Classroom and lab behavior. The classroom is here for the intended coursework. In other words, we are all in this classroom so that I can teach CISP 300 and you can take the class CISP 300. if you have to do some other homework during this class time, like you're behind in terms of a calculus homework or your English homework, as long as you're not disturbing other students, it's okay. It's not the best thing to do because you'll be missing, my instructions and also content of this class. But if you really need to do your other homework assignments, it's okay to do it as long as it's not disturbing other students. I cannot tolerate any behavior in the classroom or the lab, since we don't have any lab, so that's not relevant. That is, that will interfere with the teaching or the learning in the classroom. So that includes disruption, bullying, excessive chatting, and so on. Okay. Chatting. Now, sometimes I have students who quote unquote chat in class, but they are actually talking about something that is on topic. Because I talk about something, I didn't realize that I was going really fast, and one of the students said, okay, I didn't quite understand what he said, and asked the student next to him or her for clarification. Okay, I think that's okay, but it's still disturbing to students who are behind these students and people who are in front of the students. In those cases, what is the best way to handle it? Ask me, right? It's perfectly okay to raise your hand and ask me to slow down, stop, re-explain certain things in class. Okay, because if no one stops me, I'll be going to warp speed in this class, and that's not going to be good for anyone. Okay, if you stop me, slow me down, ask questions that are relevant to the content that we are talking about, you'll be the hero of the class. Okay, just because other people don't want to ask the question, you'll be the one asking the question, and you'll be recognized as the hero of the class. How many classes have you gone to where the class, obviously there are questions to be asked, but nobody asked the question? Yep. So don't be shy. Ask questions. Just slow me down. And from time to time, I would try to see, and interpret your facial expression, but sometimes it's subtle and not too obvious. When people go like that, or I can kind of understand that I need to slow down or re-explain something, but asking the question, just raise your hand and say, I don't quite get what you just said, is the best way to do it. Sometimes I would love to do this, but I cannot. Is this? Could you repeat what you just said? That's a very common question that my students ask me, and it's one of the things that I cannot do because I cannot remember what I just said. Fortunately, it is all being recorded, right? So there was one time I was actually replaying the video in the class just to find out what I said before, like moments ago. And it worked. But it's funny watching that video because it looks like you're thrown into a time loop. You guys are not getting it? Yes? Okay. And just to prove my point, let me just show you that it works. Because some people have questions about that and go like, how can that work? It doesn't make any sense. So let's see, where's my VLC? I don't have VLC. Okay, this works too. All right, so we'll go to today's folder, today's file. I always name the file using the date and also the time, the class. So we'll go ahead and open this. And this is the player playing, what at the beginning of the recording. I can't get to the control though. Where's the control? I suppose I can use page down. Page down. Anyway, so this is actually the recording, the file that I'm still recording right now, but I can replay the portions that has been written to the file already. So that's one way for me to replay, to remember what I just said. But as you can see, it takes quite a few steps, and sometimes it's not worth it. It's a TiVo mechanism, if you will, for lectures. Pets, I don't see any pets today, so hopefully we won't see any distracting pets in this class, because in the past I have had students who bring in a shaggy dog who would pant really loudly in the class and lick students behind him. So, I would count it as distracting. Cell phones, I'm not as strict as some other professors, where, if your cell phone rang, that professor will walk up to you and go, "What's your name?" And then mark you down. Actually, he would take points off, at the end of the semester if your cell phone rings. In this class, if you just turn off the ringer, like right away, put your phone away, or just walk outside to carry on the phone conversation, and don't do it frequently, it'll be okay with me. Okay, I'll just kind of stop, look at that student, until the phone stops ringing. No eating or drinking, except for just plain drinking water. Okay, no soda, coffee, or anything that can stain or greasy or sticky. But just plain drinking water is okay. Non-compliant students will be asked to leave the classroom, and further non-compliance will result in the involvement of security personnel. Conduct code, this part has to do with academic integrity. In other words, all homework in this class, I'm just skipping all the way down to here, all the homework and exam questions in this class are expected to be done independently and also originally. In other words, every student is supposed to work on his or her question by himself or herself. Okay? And that's pretty much my expectation for all the homework assignments as well as exam questions. The rest, you can kind of read it. I think most of this is actually common sense. Does anyone want me to go through this, or you think it'll be okay? It'll be okay? Okay. We'll touch on this again, as a later topic. Grading. Good news. Good news is, to get an A, it is 87.5% or more. We get an A. I'm reading from the bottom up. To get a B, it is between 62.5% and 87.5%. To get a C, which is what you need for the next class. Question? Go ahead.
No, I just think that 37.5 for a C is pretty low compared to most classes out there.
I have about the same grade distribution as most other classes, as most UC classes. So if you count the frequency of A, B, C, D, F, the frequency of A, B, C, D, F of this class is pretty much the same as an equivalent class at UC Davis. I don't ask easy questions. Skip the easy questions, get to the hard questions right away. Well, how about this? I'll just tell you this part here. If you get a C in this class, yes, you can move on to CISP 360, which is why most of you are taking this class. But you might find CISP 360 also struggling and difficult. If you get a B out of this class, you should be relatively okay and comfortable in CISP 360. So this class, I see this class as a prep class for CISP 360. So getting a C out of this class, yes, technically you can get into CISP 360, but you might find that class also somewhat difficult, if you get a C in this class. And I think this assessment is actually fairly accurate. In other words, these percentages mapped to the letter grade is actually pretty accurate. It's really quite realistic given the way I ask questions in the exams. The grade or the score point distribution, homeworks will only make up 20% of your final grade. The final exam all by itself is 40% of your final grade. The first exam, which is usually about week 5 or so, is 20% of your final grade, and then the second exam is about 2/3 through the semester, is another 20% of your final grade. So that means someone can potentially not turn in any homework assignments, flunk exam 1, flunk exam 2, ace the final exam, and still get a C out of this class. Right? Technically, I mean 40%, in the final exam, and you only need 37.5% to get a C to move on to CISP 360. I have never seen that happen. Not that people have not tried. I have seen far more often that people will get 20% of all the homework, they get 20% of the first exam, and then continue to do well in the class, get the other 20% here, and get most of the 40% here, and get an A out of the class. Why not? If you're already doing well with your homework and the first exam, why not get an A out of the class, right? Sorry?
You removed the I'm going to fail or I could fail early on, and so people are just driven to succeed instead of driven to stop failing.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Grading FAQ. This is a. I have one particular student who gave me, let's just say, a lot of challenges. He was a good friend of mine. We had a good relationship as professor and student. But he is really kind of, he always asks these questions, and that's why the syllabus has a lot of the clarifications. The grade or the score is based on observable competency and not how much time or effort people have put into it. So that means for a particular homework assignment, someone can just whip out the answer in 3 minutes. I'm done, get perfect score. Another student may have to spend an hour to review the class material, another half an hour to work on the homework assignment, and still miss certain points and only get 80% out of it. I can only grade based on what people turn in that I can observe. I cannot grade based on time, how much time people spend on the homework assignments. This class probably will not see any multiple choice questions, but I might change that this semester, so it's safe to cover this part first. If I give you a multiple choice question, it will be balanced. That means it will use the same method as SAT for scoring. If you answer it right, you get 1 point. If you leave it blank, not answer it, you get 0. If you answer it wrong, you will get a quarter point deduction. Okay? The whole point about the quarter point deduction is so that for someone who knows absolutely nothing about programming, and that person, whether that person choose to randomly pick answers or leave the entire thing blank, statistically speaking, that person will still get just a 0. Now, I know that some people are particularly lucky and still end up with a positive score, even though that person knows nothing about programming, and some people are particularly unlucky and end up with a negative score at the end of the whole process. But Moodle is very kind, and so am I. I round negative score to 0. So the system is biased. Yes?
So if we don't put any answer down,
It's a 0.
it's just a 0.
Yep.
Okay, and then if we get we get it right, we get 1 point.
If you get it wrong, it's a quarter point deduction.
Okay.
Now, what if you're not quite sure, but you can see out of 5 choices, 2 cannot possibly be the answer. So you're left with only 3 really possible answers, because the other 2 you know for sure cannot be the answer. What should you do? Statistically speaking, you should guess, because it favors you. On the average, you should be getting a positive score out of those 3 remaining ones. Okay, but as I said, some people are particularly unlucky. Given only 2 choices left out of 5, those people will still pick the wrong one just because they're unlucky. So I cannot guarantee any result, from picking these choices randomly. A lot of disclaimers right here. Some questions are graded based on key indicators, which are objective observable characteristics of the submitted work. By the time we get to the exams, that will be clear what I mean by that. There's no late submission. Submission after the due date or time do not count or are not permitted unless it is covered by an excuse. All right. Zipping along, let's go to tips. All right, this is one part that kind of comes up a lot. Okay. What if someone asks you, someone in the class asks you, I really don't know. Go ahead. Question?
So there was this one, so the exams will be online.
No, the exams will be printed. Because this class is way too big, I cannot let you guys take the exam online because it is a face-to-face class, but the lab is not in, they don't have enough space for this class, so I'll give you paper-based exams. So in which case you just circle the answer and stuff like that.
I asked because I heard you saying Moodle will round up Vegas scores to zero, so I assume the exam was.
Right, because I can put in the choices and let Moodle do the scoring. But you will still be answering questions on paper for this class. That's a good question. Okay, so helping out a fellow student. So let's just say that a student comes to you and asks and tell you that I'm not really quite getting the material of this class. I'm really doing badly in this class. I need some help with my homework assignment. Okay, what are you going to do? Choice number one, I don't want tech to count us as cheating, go away. Use me as an excuse not to help out the other student, right? Okay, now you can do that, it's your choice. But let's say you really want to help that student. What are you gonna do? Okay, here's my answer, just take it and copy it, okay? Would that be a good way to help out the other student?
Setting up failure.
Yep, setting up both, myself and also the other student for failure because it is counted as cheating. So what should you do?
Show them how to do it.
Exactly, show the other student how to do it. Help the other student understand the concepts. That really is the most important part, is to find out what the other student is not understanding and explaining it. But Tech, that's taking so much of my time doing it and it doesn't do me any good. What do you think? Maybe not with this class, but I teach assembly language programming, which is one of the hardest classes that people have to take to get the computer science degree. What I observe in that class is students who spend the time to explain to another student the concepts and how to do something, they in return get a better understanding of the stuff, of the material. Because when you read something and you do your own homework assignment, it's reinforcing already. But when you try to explain the same thing to somebody else, you get another level of understanding of the same material. Okay? So as long as the other student is genuinely trying to understand the material and not just pestering you to try to get the answer, the straight answer, both students can benefit from this conversation. Okay? Are there any questions about this slide? How to help out a fellow student? Questions? All right, moving to the next one, financial aid. I put this up here because there was one semester that unfortunately I had to fail one student, and that student ended up losing financial aid. I cannot be responsible for the grade of that particular student, especially when that student was copying answers in the final exam from another student. Okay, so I could not help with that process. So I just want to make sure that people understand that sometimes that kind of stuff happens, and that student ended up losing the financial aid or part of the financial aid of that semester. And the same student also enrolled in another class, cisp300, right after this class, but because he could not get a C or better out of this class, he could not enroll in cisp300, even though he got into the class in terms of enrollment. He could not get it because he did not meet the prerequisite of the other class. Do you think if I didn't catch the cheating and that student actually got into cisp300, do you think I would have done him a favor or not?
Yeah.
He actually did not understand the material well enough to get into 360. So along the ladder, at some point, that student is going to fail. It's just that the later the student realize, I really don't quite get it, the harder it's going to hurt. Because at that point, it will be much harder in terms of a mental barrier to go back and say, maybe I should retake P300. Maybe I should retake P360. It's actually better to realize early on and say, maybe I'm not quite getting all the material in this class and I should take this class again. Study habits, not quite sure whether I should cover this or not, but the first thing is, attending classes, not just being physically here, but also paying attention, in class. And I know sometimes it's hard because the material is dry, boring, abstract, So if you have any idea to make it easier, for you guys to pay attention in class, let me know. From time to time, I'll give you some digressions and stuff like that, just so that you can, you can rest a little bit, like a few minutes, and then we get back on topic. It helps to read the material first before the class. Sometimes, the writing that I write, I write stuff kind of in a concise way, so it may not really, you cannot get everything from just reading before the class. It doesn't matter. Just read it, when you get to a point where you don't quite get, I don't quite get, what he means by blah, blah, blah. Circle it and just, get familiar with the terms, okay? Because by the time you get to the class, you would already have that concept part, at least part of that concept in your mind. And when I explain it in class, it should click, better or easier that way. Also, you can study right after a lecture because your mind is still fresh. That stuff is still in your head, in your mind. So if you study right after a lecture, it really helps compared to studying like a day after the lecture. Start on your homework assignments as early as possible. Procrastination does not help. We already know that, but we still do it, right? I procrastinate sometimes. A lot of times I would give you an assignment on the same topic that I will be talking about on the same day. Okay, that's one way to try to keep you guys, keep your attention, because I'll give you a homework assignment and the material, the concepts that you need for the homework assignment is what I will talk about in that particular lecture. In other words, you can be doing part of the homework assignment as we go through the class. At least in your mind, you can start to connect the pieces and construct your homework the solution to your homework assignment. After an assignment is due, study my solution. Especially when you do not get a perfect score, find out why you got points deducted. Okay? And sometimes, I would just write down, in the homework assignment, I would write a comment and say, see my solution. That usually means, a submitted answer is kind of too far away from the expected answer. And so in those cases, you should really read my solution and make sure that you understand why my solution is the correct solution. I use a lot of live examples in my class. In other words, even though I have my notes already typed out, I don't read from my notes because I think that's really boring. I would fall asleep in class if I were to do that. So a lot of times I would just give myself live class assignment and I would try to solve a problem, in class. So that's not in the notes, but it will still be captured by the video. And the file I will also upload to Moodle, so you can actually click on Moodle and download the documents that I work on during the class. So what that means is, you don't have to worry about things that are on the projector because it's all going to be recorded. You do have to make sure and remind me to start the recorder at the beginning of a class, but for the most part, that stuff is recorded. What you do have to focus on will be the concepts. Okay, when I explain something, especially some of the tricky stuff, when you click and go, okay, so I understand what he means now, write something down, on your notes. Okay. Or when I use the whiteboard, that's not going to be recorded, so you might want to write that stuff down too. I think that's about it, except for the schedule, which are tentative days to cover specific topics. And this is all accessible from the website. Are there any questions at this point? So I'll give you your first homework assignment. Your first homework assignment is the acknowledgement that you know where to find and read the syllabus. Okay? Because I just talked about how to get into Moodle, and this is just a link in Moodle. The syllabus is just a link in Moodle. When you click this choice activity, it will ask you a question. The choice activity is like signing a form to indicate you know where to find the syllabus and that you have read the syllabus. You have two choices because it won't let me have one single choice.
Well, I was just going to ask, can you just like go over how you get on log on to Moodle?
Sure. Yep, I can start from the beginning. Okay, I just signed out. So the URL is moodle.lostreals.edu, moodle.lostreals.edu. Just think noodle with an M. Okay. So when you sign in, you have to use your student ID. So, well, I have a student ID too, so I can. And then you have to use the universal password to sign in. Now, if I sign in as a student, I don't have any classes because I have not enrolled myself in one of the classes. But when you sign in under My Courses, you will see this class course listed. Sorry?
What about people that aren't enrolled yet because of things like the wait list?
That's a tough situation. What I would do, okay, if you are on the wait list, send me an email with your name and your student ID,
Okay.
and then I will add you to Moodle,
All right.
which means you will have access to everything that I use today,
Okay.
but you're not officially in the class, but you will have access to the material.
Right.
Okay. So if you're on the wait list or not even on the wait list and you want to kind of stay with the class, send me an email, and I'll just write down the email because since it's TAUYEUNG@drtak.org. So make it very clear on the subject. Just write down the course, which is CISP300, your name, and then in the body of the email message, just write that you want to add yourself to Moodle so that you have access to this stuff. Hi, Damon. I got good news for the rest of for people who are on the wait list and also people who could not get on the wait list because Damon has a gift.
Well, I don't know if I'd call it a gift.
Yeah, it's a gift.
My, this is full. I was here at the night section too. And they got people waiting in the back. I know my class is full too. Mine's Monday, Wednesday in the morning.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, can you get to my website if you can remember where it is?
Is it IC?
I see, yeah. Okay, there's a new course available in the spring. And the course is actually an honors course, but what it is it combines CSP300 and CSP360 into one course. Instead of taking two courses in 2 semesters, this one fits into 1 semester. It's 5 units as opposed to the total of 7 units that you would normally take. And all of the programming certificates and degrees have been adjusted to allow you to take this 1 course instead of the 2 courses together. Okay? So for instance, all of you who can't get into this class won't have to, and you need 360, that's the other thing. If you don't need 360, then what's the point, right? But I'm thinking that many of you do need to take both the courses because the whole point of being here is the prerequisite to get into CSP 360. So, so this class is being offered at, I think it's 1 to 2:15, so it's a daytime class, Tuesdays and Thursdays next semester. There is 1 prerequisite for the class, however. And oddly enough, it's an English class. It is the English Writing 480, and you need to just take the ARC assessment, writing assessment test, and you have to score 90 or above on it, Okay, so you have to be fairly proficient. You don't have to have taken the class. You just have to pass the assessment test at that level. Actually, let me write down my webpage. Did you send them email by any chance? Oh, it doesn't really matter. I told him to send email to everybody on his course list. Did you?
I thought I did.
Did you?
I don't remember.
Did you get an email about this class?
I got an email about the Moodle
Okay, so you did.
like a while back.
So apparently, TAC forgot. But don't worry, so did the other instructor. That's why I'm here today. So I'm going to write down my web. This is the address to get to this website to get the information.
The URL?
Yeah, that's what it is. URL. Tilda Antosd, A-N-T-O-S-D. I'm Professor Antos, Damon Antos. It's the URL to get more information because I know you're not all that kind of fast readers. Don't expect that. Right. So, what else was I going to say about it? So while I'm thinking, what questions do you have on this? Yes.
Is it transferable to UC Cal State?
It's transferable, but whether it will be accepted towards any other class, we won't know for a while. Let's put it this way: this class is a super. First of all, cisp300 doesn't transfer to anything at UC or any of the schools. It does transfer for units. cisp360 does transfer to some colleges, but keep in mind cisp480 is a superset of cisp360. So there's a good chance that when it gets evaluated, because it's a brand new course, when it gets evaluated by the UCs, it could very well transfer directly to another course that they offer because it does have so much content in it. So it doesn't transfer now, but there's more likelihood that it would as soon as it gets evaluated. So in other words, you're no worse off than if you take cisp300 than cisp360. You actually have a chance to be better off. Okay.
Here's a question.
Yes.
So if you've already taken the 300 now, and then in the spring, hopefully you pass this class this year better, do you need to take 480?
No.
Or is it
Good
just-
question. So if you're taking cisp300, there's no point in taking cisp480. You would just take 360. Okay? Because cisp480 includes both courses content. Okay, and by the way that I squeeze it in, because it's only 5 units, okay, so it's less time. I pretty much put the entire content at cisp360 into it, but I speed up the 300 part, okay? And I know many of you are kind of already done a little bit of scripting, maybe you've done some dabbling in programming already. And so I kind of cut this class in half. I might skip the basics like what is a computer and input and output devices and all this kind of stuff, okay? And I might speed up a little more on some of the very beginning stuff so I can get into the little more advanced pseudocoding stuff. So that's kind of how I do it, okay? Now, if you're, thinking you're not so great at this and it's all new to you, maybe you're doing all right staying here, okay? But if you're going to be a computer programmer, you're going to go into engineering, and you're just trying to get through this class quickly so you can get on to the programming stuff, then this could very well be for you. But so what you need to do though is you do need to take the English assessment test if you haven't taken it already, and they're open. And I got a link here, and it's walk-in basis. So you don't have to make appointments. It's all done on the computer. You get your score right away. And then if you don't pass it at the 90 or above, your decision's been made. Okay, you're in the right place. Just stay here and don't worry about it. If you do pass it, you need to make a decision. You have until September 7th, which is the drop date for a full-term class, to get all your money back. And so you can think about it for a week. Talk to me. Send me some email. Take a look at this website. Think about it some more. Talk to a counselor. Good luck getting an appointment at this point, though.
Just talk to Damon.
The other advantage to this is because it is an honors course. Of course, you don't have to be. You're not. So there's no so-called honors student. You're a student taking an honors class. If you take 4 more honors classes, there's a link to the honors website. You get preference admission to many colleges. Okay, and again, I have a link to the honors website, and it tells you all about that situation. So if you take 5 honors classes, then you can get some preference admission. Yes.
And then 5 honors classes over the course of your general education, like the 2 years.
There's a listing of all the honors courses on the honors website, and so there's no time limit. You just have to take them all before you you have to complete the honors courses before you transfer, and you'll be considered for preference admission to many universities. And so I guess there's more and more of them that are kind of getting with the program as far as the honors program. But yeah, they mentioned it. I forget what the best link is. It's transfer agreement. I guess that, I'm not sure. And then there's other links over here. Okay, so there's quite a few schools that are involved, and especially these times where it's really hard to get in and all these colleges are impacted. I think you might want to do whatever you can to get into it. And cisp300 tends to be a little more project-based. You know, I don't have just a lot of short little assignments that kind of build on each other, a lot of group work, and there's an enrollment limit, officially, of only 20. So imagine this class, only 20 people in it, doing cisp300 and then cisp360. So that's another huge advantage is we're going to be working in kind of a close-knit group. You'll get to know everybody pretty well. And hopefully that makes things a little easier too. Okay, so much smaller class size. And there might be the worry that suppose you drop this class and that class is going to fill up. It's not going to fill up. Okay, but what you want to do if you do drop this class is just make sure that as soon as you can enroll in cisp300, just do it. Make sure you get into it, or at least get onto the wait list. Okay, and you're pretty safe. You'll be getting in. Okay, so just do pay attention to that, because I'll be doing this talk to all the cisp300 courses next semester, because for them it's going to be a huge advantage, because if they're taking 300 at that point, it's a no-brainer. Okay, you just want to hop into the next class right away. You know you're in it, just go for it. But I'll be talking to them long after registration occurs. Okay, so there's going to be spots. Okay, but do make sure that if you choose to get into this class, you're going to want to do it as soon as enrollment opens up. Yes.
How come you don't traditionally combine 300 and 360? How come they're a separate class?
So why do we not combine them normally?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, if this goes real well, you know, it could very well open the door to doing something like that. However, I actually have taught this course elsewhere, very similar to doing it all into one course. Not very successful, but then again, I didn't have the ARC students either. So, I mean, seriously, I taught at a private college, okay? And I want to tell you that no question, teaching here, it's a step above, okay? I have a lot better pass rate, you know, students are much better, and I would seriously consider creating a class like that and doing that. I would probably have more than 5 units. I'd go ahead and make it 6 or something, but you know, so that because I don't want to really compress it too much. But for an honors class and having such a small enrollment, you know, I could work with you and you know, a lot more closely, and you know, should work out pretty well. Yes.
You said only 20 students. Is there only one offering for this class, or is it going to be multiple?
There's only one section, but I mean, I really. Honors classes tend not to fill. But just, you know, it's really hard because I got to get this. You got to pass the assessment at the right rate.
Right.
Okay. Now, you know, if you don't pass and you're really close, you know, there are ways around it. I mean, you can actually petition to the honors people, Kathy Rogers. She's kind of in charge of that. There's, you know, if you provide evidence of being able to write essays at such a level, 8,000 words or whatever, research papers or whatnot, you can get approved that way as well. And you know, I suspect, you didn't hear it from me, but I suspect that if there's a few people in the class that maybe didn't actually pass the test at the right level, but we have a little chat, and I need to have the enrollment to make the class run, you know, I might, you know, just kind of forget to check your, but you know, but you know, it'd be a really good idea because, you know, you just don't know. So you want to make sure that you do everything you can to pass that assessment test and, you know, and be there and, you know, impress me. You got to impress me, you know, to be able to get in there. It is going to be a bit of work, but then again, you're taking 2 classes all at once. Okay, so make sure you got time for it, your schedule should you decide to take it. It will be time, or maybe not. I mean, I have some people taking my programming classes that have no problem getting through all the exercises. You know, they're done right away, and everyone else is struggling. You know, yeah.
What's the date and time of the class?
Tuesday and Thursdays, and 1 to 2:15, I believe it's on. I got it. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, 1 to 2:15. I even know the room number. How about that? Okay. Cool. It helps when you're the one that schedules the classes. Then, you know, I can tell you this stuff. But okay, and I think that's all I really need to say. I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
No, that's good.
We're rolling, but you know, some people may say that, hey, what's English have to do with programming? Okay, why is it prerequisite? There's two reasons why it's a prerequisite. To be an honors class, you have to have this as a prerequisite. You have to assess at that level. But it actually makes a lot of sense, because when you're writing programs, it's just like writing a research paper, any large paper that you have to write. You need to look at things kind of top down. Okay, first of all, you think about what is it I need to produce, and once you figure that out, you break it down into some component parts. I want to do this, this, and this. Then you take each of these bullet items and you look at it and figure, okay, I need to flesh this out a little bit more because I got to describe thus and such. Now here I'm all talking theory, and then you have to break that down a little bit more. Okay, this is how you write a paper, but this is how you write a program also. Okay, you start at the very top, and you have to focus. You get closer and closer. You further refine it until finally you have your program. If you can do that with a technical paper, you can do that in writing a program. It's exactly the same process. Okay, that you'll be learning in this class. All right. Any further questions? Boy, you don't even have enough chairs in here. All right. Gosh, I guess you're just gonna.
I have to give up mine.
All right. Well, good luck. You need the white papers, by the way. You have to go back to the white one. Yeah, these are all. Somebody as well. Okay. Any last questions? You can always email me as well. Okay. Best thing. Excellent. Thank you for your time and your attention. Very attentive group. I approve.
You can friend us. Now, to answer the question why we can combine P300 and P360, I can talk about how. Okay, when I took computer science classes back in '85 and '86, yeah, it was a while back. I took Pascal programming, which is a instructional programming language, and then the next class was assembly programming, and then the next class was operating system programming. So I'm not talking about operating system as in how to use Windows, but how to write the inside of an operating system. And at the beginning of the semester, this is at San Francisco State University, at the beginning of the semester, the professor said, you'll be doing this in C, all right? But remember, did I mention a C class before? No, I took Pascal and I took assembly language programming. So we got 2 weeks to learn C. And then the first homework assignment was written in C. Yep. So that's how programming classes was, back in the 80s. They just, airdrop you into the ocean and go, okay, let's see whether you can swim. Where's the shore? I can't see it. Just whip out your compass, in the middle of the ocean. Go, okay, I think it's over there. Just keep paddling. You'll get there. Or sink. Yeah, but here we have P300 basically as a prep class of cisp 360. So for students who have some programming experience before or have the aptitude to do that, you really do not need a prep class before 360. But it does help even in those cases, because in this class in P300, I go slow and I cover the concept topics like down to the itty-gritty details. So by the time you get out of this class, you understand the mechanisms of how everything works across just about any programming language. I don't just talk about C++, stuff that you learn in this class. You can apply that to Perl, PHP, Python, just about any modern programming language. The concepts that we talk about in this class would still be helpful. So this class, is a prep class for 360, but at the same time, it also helps you with just about any type of programming language. So, that's about that. I think Damon did not understand that this was getting recorded when he guaranteed that, yeah, if you sign up CISP 480, you'll get in. We'll see about that. Just remember today's date, bookmark it, in case you want to kind of get back to that little clip, where he said, yeah, you can get in, I guarantee it. Yeah, I wanted to kind of mention that, but I kind of, maybe not. Okay, so with this class, the first homework assignment was to install and configure OpenOffice or LibreOffice. Okay, Because in this class, all the homework assignment, we'll do it in LibreOffice. How many people know what is LibreOffice?
That's the fork of OpenOffice, originally produced by Sun Microsystems, which was then taken over by Oracle and then handed over to
And everybody left,
Yeah.
yes. Just like the Java team, everybody left.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Was that the link that you emailed us to sign in? Because I couldn't get into it.
This link that
You sent an email and it had an option, or maybe it's
maybe it wasn't me. Well, the link is here from Moodle. So inside Moodle, there's a link to it. And the easiest way to do it is to go to portableapps.com. Portableapps.com has all the open source software in a portable format. Now, what that means is, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying on my flash drive.
Yeah, you just put it on your flash drive, and then you plug your flash drive to any computer, and you'll be able to use those application programs. Yes? It won't mess with your registry. It does not install anything on your computer. Everything is on the thumb drive. The configuration is on the thumb drive. The program is on the thumb drive. So if you keep your documents also on the thumb drive, it is self-contained. As long as you have access to a Windows computer where there's a USB port, you'll be able to do your homework. With all this, it keeps all the settings too. Yep.
What kind of space requirements?
Very good question. I have not checked lately, so let's go ahead and take a look. So we'll go to Get Apps. It's not that much. You go to Office. Yeah, it takes a long time to install if you have a slower flash device. Let's see, where is it? Office Suite, LibreOffice Portable. So right here, it shows that to download, it is 144 megabytes. After you install, it will take up about half a gig. That's with the Windows, but with only the English, I think, with the English language pack. If you download it with all the different language packs, then it will bump it up to about 1 gigabyte. Is that a lot these days?
No.
Can I still buy a 2 gig SD card? No. Maybe from Craigslist.
Yeah, you probably can.
From Craigslist. I'll give you, charge you 50 cents for it.
Go
Yep.
through Moodle to
Hmm?
portable apps to your website, to Office.
Okay.
Sort out LibreOffice.
Yep, go ahead.
So what's LibreOffice for? Is it like Microsoft Office?
Yeah, it's kind of like Microsoft Office, but since I use Linux, I can open Microsoft Office documents, but not 100%. This I can open up 100%.
So it suits up to every format? For every file format, like text format?
It supports almost all of the Microsoft formats too. But in this class, when you turn in your homework assignment, I need it to be specifically in LibreOffice format.
Okay.
Yep.
So it would be the .odt, I believe it is.
Yeah, I'll be using spreadsheets, which is ODS.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be using spreadsheets in this class. Yep. Yep. Go ahead.
Would it be possible to, the format that Google Drive or Google Docs allows you to save as, would that?
No, it's not the same because there are certain elements that I need inside the document. I know Google Documents can save as open document, which is the format that LibreOffice can use, but it doesn't give me the history of editing, which is what I also need for grading purposes.
It messes up the formatting too.
Yeah, so I would just go ahead and install this. The key to do this, because if you just use a 16 gig or 8 gig memory USB thumb drive, some of those things are really slow. This can take an hour to install when you have a slow device, because the slow devices are fast to read but slow to write. And to install software, it takes a lot of write operations. So what I would do, I cannot show you because I'm using it right now. I have one of those USB flash card reader. So you just plug in an SD card into that thing and then plug the USB flash reader into the computer. The one that I got is particularly fast. I can sustain 5 megabytes per second with a class 4 SD card. So it squeezes the last ounce of performance out of the SD card. The card reader itself does not pose any bottleneck whatsoever. And I got it for $5, shipped from China.
Not bad.
It took a month. Gotta fill up that crate first, right? You know, before it shipped. But it was good. You know, so when you get a flash device, make sure that you get one that has a guaranteed write speed. The read speed doesn't really matter that much. It's the write speed that really matters when you install software like this. Yep.
Is there any difference between running the portable version and just running it on Linux?
No.
Okay.
This is for people who use Windows and want to be able to carry their homework assignment and the tools with them to different computers. Yep. Any other questions? The other solution, if you don't want to use a memory card, but you want the speed, you know, and the portability, an external hard drive also works well. External hard drives are typically a lot faster than an inexpensive thumb drive. Does anyone have an external thumb drive? I mean, an external hard drive? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have an external hard drive.
Yeah. And they're not too expensive.
No, I bought mine for like $60, like 350 gigs.
Yep.
And I can usually transfer stuff over pretty quick.
Yeah, those things are really fast. You know, they're faster
The
than
write
the
speed,
thumb
there's a
drives.
little hard drive spinning there, it writes pretty fast.
Yeah, but once you start writing, you know, it's actually really fast. Yeah. Are there any questions about, you know, the software that I need for this class? If you want to install LibreOffice on your hard drive, you know, that's fine with me too. This just gives you the best, you know, the most portable solution where you can just take that drive to any computer and be able to do your homework without having to install anything. Portable apps actually has a lot of other software too. If you go to internet, it has Firefox. It has the portable version of Firefox. So you would ask, but why do I want, you know, the portable edition of Firefox when I have Firefox already installed on, you know, the 20 computers that I use most? Well, how about your settings, your plugins, your bookmarks? This allows you to keep everything on the thumb drive, so no matter where you go, which computer you use, you will still have your bookmarks, you have your plugins, you have your extensions, and you have all the settings on the thumb drive itself. So that's why it is kind of a neat little solution. The downside of portable applications is, depending on your thumb drive or external hard drive, it can be a bit slower than loading a program from the hard drive. That's the only downside that I can see. But other than that, you know, everything is, you know, it's on the thumb drive itself. Okay. Any questions about how to get the application? Okay. Questions? And we'll go ahead. We have 3 minutes left, so I can at least, you know, get started with algorithms and developers. And just like with my the class before this one, cisp300, why do we want to study algorithms, how to write programs? Why are you in this class? Why do you want to take cisp360? Because my major needs it, right?
Let's be honest.
That's a typical answer. And my major is not even computer science or electrical engineering. I'm a math major. Why do I have to program? Why do I have to take programming classes? What do math majors do after they graduate? Okay, that's one career path, but guess what? Applied math majors actually have a lot of employment opportunities in Wall Street. Why?
They're all use math.
Because what do people in Wall Street want to do? Besides making lots of money. Exactly, they want to analyze, you know, the stock market. How do you analyze the stock market? How do you make money in the stock market?
Just make predictions of it go up or down.
Modeling, exactly. So what they're trying to do is to model the behavior of the stock market. Okay, then you input all the parameters possible, and then the program will give you some sort of projection of, you know, what might happen or what is likely to happen in the future. Imagine that, a crystal ball. Okay, but how do you make that crystal ball happen? Magical crystal?
You
Just programmers. How about just programmers? Can programmers or computer scientists, alone be sufficient to make that crystal ball happen? No, because computer scientists typically do not have the understanding of mathematics to make the model work, to create a model. So the people who are creating the model, which is basically the math behind the modeling, are applied math majors. So does that answer the question of why math majors should take programming classes? Okay.
Yeah.
Now they may not be actually writing the programs or writing the majority of the program, but they need to understand enough about programming to specify how a program should behave to the computer scientist or the software engineers. Okay. Besides math, what other majors are you guys in? What other majors are you trying to pursue? And it sends you here to take programming classes. Engineering, chemistry. Okay. Why do you want to take programming classes when your major is chemistry?
Chemistry and mechanical engineering for mechanical.
Okay, in mechanical engineering, why would programming be important? How do you design stuff in mechanical engineering these days? Do you still have those big scrolls of paper and your ruler and stuff? You use CAD, right? CAD software, computer-aided design software. Now with computer-aided design software, which is already kind of cool because it's on the computer, how do you make things happen? If you're designing something that requires 2,600 screws, do you have to input every single screw in the system? No.
No.
What do you do?
Programmer to do it.
You can program it, exactly. AutoCAD from the get-go, from the 70s or 80s, is actually programmable. And it's programmable using one of the oldest programming language called Lisp, okay, L-I-S-P, which stands for list processing. Why do you want an AutoCAD type program to be programmable? What kind of program are you going to write?
Certain processes.
Sorry?
So you can automate certain processes.
You can automate certain things. What kind of chore do you think you want to automate when you're doing a mechanical drawing? Screws, or how about a complex a wheel design? Okay, do you want to really hand enter everything, or do you just want to specify one portion and say do it 20 times? Right? So there's a lot of stuff in mechanical engineering that can use programming. What about car designs? Okay, my brother was really big. He really was interested in car designs. How do you think people design cars these days? Especially the safety aspect of a car. Make it, crash it, see what happens. Change the design, make another one, crash it again. Well, yes, technically they crash it, but in a virtual environment, right? So now you can crash it all day long, and there's actually no cost other than the electricity that you need to run the computers. Yeah.
Yeah, can't be crashing too many $1,000 cars, $100,000 cars.
Yep, exactly. And plus, when you crash a model, it may not be the same when you crash a full-size, actual car. Okay. Any other majors other than, mechanical? Yep, go ahead.
Geographic information systems.
GIS, okay? Well, GIS has IS in it, so that kind of gives you a clue why programming may be important in that. And you guys can do a lot of modeling as well. There's a lot of modeling related to GIS. All right. Well, we are running out of time, so I'll see you guys on Thursday. But try to read ahead of me and send me an email if you are on the wait list and you want to get into Moodle. You started on any then you can take the thumb drive to any
bring that stuff.
No, you turn in your homework by electronically. Yep. Yeah, we'll talk about it on Thursday. But it's good to be able to install it first so you can get it out of the way. LibreOffice.
Can we just install it onto our computer?
Yep. You're on the wait list?
No, I'm not enrolled actually. But I missed
Oh, you are?
I missed the roll call.
Oh, okay. Did you sign?
No, I didn't.
Okay, just go ahead and sign your name and you'll be fine.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, this is gonna be new to me, so we'll